Hey guys, it's Sohee here. This is the Hip Thrust 101 video. First things first, I want to talk about having the right setup for your hip thrust. Now, if you're in a commercial gym, what you'll see happening is that most people, when they try to hip thrust, they're using a standard bench. So this is a standard bench. The problem is that this is roughly 18 inches high, which is going to be too high for the vast majority of you for proper hip thrusting. So I'm down here, and I'll be hinging from way too high on my back, and this is not ideal because it's hard to do this, to do hip thrust with good form. So you'll find that you want to flare your chest a lot more as you do this, and especially as you thrust heavier and heavier loads, you may find that you start feeling it in your low back more, which is far from ideal. You do not want that to happen. So instead, if you can, find a platform that is anywhere from roughly 12 to 14 inches in height. It can be a plyo box. It can be aerobic step risers like I have here. It can be a thruster bench. So in this case, for an aerobic step riser, since I'm shorter, I'm 5'2", I have just 4 risers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the lid. So this is a really good height for me. I like to thrust. This is a really good position. So if you have aerobic step risers in your home, at your gym, definitely recommend this. This is great because you can very easily adjust the height. Now I have the one short lid here, but obviously if you wanted to have the long lid, you could do 4 and then 4 on one side and then put the long lid across. That's another option. And then over here we have what's called the thruster bench. Now this one is great. It's made of a special type of foam. It's 12 inches in height, and it just feels really, really comfortable as you're performing this exercise. So right when I lean back like this, I'm at the perfect hinging position, and I'm good to go. Allows me to get really, really good form, okay? So from here, now that you have your correct implement, I'll show you the basics of the hip thrust. We'll start out with just body weight, okay? So first thing is, on your bench, you should be hinging from just under the shoulder blades. Down here, most people, they'll be like this, okay? So common cue I give is to scoot back more on the bench and pull themselves up like this, all right? So this is where you want to be. Your feet should be roughly shoulder width apart. You'll find that as you do this, you can tinker with your foot stance, play around with a narrow stance, with the knees abducted, maybe a wider stance. But this is my default to start out, and then from here, find what feels better for you, okay? So from here, what I want to do is I keep my chin tucked, eyes forward. Notice how my elbows and my shoulders are not up against the bench like this. So this is a common thing that people do when they first see the exercise and then they try to replicate it. They end up thrusting like this off their elbows. So you're hinging off the back. You can make fists with your hands to look a little more athletic instead of making weird dinosaur fingers. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push through my heels, and if you find it helpful to lift your toes off the ground like this so that you're not pushing through your toes, you can. And then what I'm going to do is extend my hips, push my hips up. Notice how as I'm coming up, my eyes stay forward and my chest is not getting thrown back. Okay, so I'm pushed through my heels. I'm going to get a full hip extension at the top. So I'm going to lock out, bam, big glute squeeze at the top. This is a full rep, all the way back down, up, down, up, down. Now when you do this, you do not want to just stop right here, which is what I see happening a lot. And then they're like, especially when you start going heavier and load the barbell across your lap, they're like, oh, I got a PR, but they're going halfway up. And so their range of motion has shortened by a good amount, and they count that as a full rep. It's not a full rep. So you can feel a difference between stopping here versus getting those last few inches up, 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 lock it out, bam, back down. So this is what it should look like. And another important thing to note too is look at how from my ribs down, that's where all the movement is coming from, okay? So I'm not fluttering my chest back. Everything to here is not even moving. So watch this from the side, right here, just like that, okay? Now, when you put a barbell across your lap, you want to have a thick barbell pad. This one is a squat sponge. You can also use an extra thick Hampton barbell pad. You can get both off Amazon, and or there's other variations as well, different brands. So when you have a barbell, notice how you have the knurling of the bar, right? These are the diagonal cuts. Use this to figure out where the center of the bar is, and when you roll it over your hips into position, you want to make sure that it is even over your hips. You don't want it shifted to the left, and you don't want it shifted to the right, otherwise when you start thrusting, it's going to be lopsided. As well, with your squat sponge, make sure the opening of the squat sponge is facing up. That way, it's actually doing its job of protecting your hips. Otherwise, it gets very uncomfortable if it flips down while you're doing your reps, and then all of a sudden you have no protection for your hips. Okay, so it's facing up at all times. So as I start, especially this is for bumper plates or 45-pound plates or more. So from here, my legs are extended at the bottom so I can roll the barbell over my thighs. Right here. Once it's over, I make sure I'm centered, so I look down. Check the knurling, get my feet into position, and from here, it's the same idea. I take a deep breath in, grab the barbell to the sides, push through the heels, fully extend the hips. Notice how my chin stays tucked at the top, my eyes stay forward, my ribs are down. Okay, so that's what that looks like. One really important note for this one is it's actually easier if I show it to you from standing. Let's say I'm sitting at the bottom of the rep. You can be in what's called anterior pelvic tilt. So this is my pelvis tilted anteriorly. So let's say I'm sitting, this is me at the bottom in anterior tilt. As I come up, I want to tuck my pelvis under me and come into what's called posterior pelvic tilt. So as I come up to the top of the rep, this is what happens, okay? Instead of, you're not like this at the top, pelvis tucked under you. So this is an anterior pelvic tilt. And watch carefully, posterior, bam. So you're squeezing your glutes. It's not a pretty look, but this is gonna really help increase that glute activation, and it also helps to protect the low back while you're hip thrusting. You should not be feeling it in your low back. If you're hurting there, you're probably doing something wrong with your form. So anterior at the bottom, posterior at the top, like this, okay? Additionally, for foot position, let's go over that again. If you find you are feeling the exercise in your hamstrings a lot, make sure your feet aren't too far in front of you. So if they're way up here, you're going to get more hamstrings, or even like this. I see this too. This is more hamstrings. If your feet are in too close, you're going to get a lot of quads, okay? So we like to find a sweet spot where you have your shins at the top of each rep roughly vertical to the ground, right around here. So, of course, it's kind of hard to see when you're doing it on your own like this, but over time, as you get in a lot of practice, you'll be able to very naturally find, as you get into position, you'll be like, okay, I'm feeling it out, feeling it out. This is my correct foot position. This is where I want to be. Then you do your reps, and you know you're in the right place, okay? So, let's say you don't have a lower bench. I'm going to show you, if you have to do it off a standard higher bench, how you can make that happen. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Let's say you have 135, just like this. So your setup would be the same. First things first is to make sure that the bar is even over your hips. So this is where I would start, and I've had to do this a few times before. It's not too bad. So what I'm going to do is get my feet into position here. Now, look how I can't get into the right hinging position on my back without my butt coming off the floor, but I'm not ready for that yet. So this is where I'm going to start, okay? However, this is what it looks like. Before I do my first actual rep, I do a little bit of a thrust, and then I pull myself up like this until I can feel that I'm now hinging from under my shoulder blades. This is my start position, okay? So as I do my reps, I'm going to come down. Because I'm higher, I'm not going to touch my plates to the ground. So here, up, here. You still want to posterior pelvic tilt. At the top like this. Just like that. So this is what your reps will look like. Everything else with your form is the same if you're going off a higher bench. So it's not a terrible option. You can make it work. I do want to show you guys as well, maybe for those of you who are newer to hip thrusting and aren't quite at the place where you can do 135 pounds for reps yet, and that's when you have a 45-pound plate on each side, and or if your gym does not have bumper plates available, so you just have the smaller plates, here's what you can do. Let's say you're doing a 65-pound hip thrust with smaller plates like this. All right, so here's what you would want to do. Get your plates on either side, get your squat sponge, your pad in place, and I'm going to stand up. From here, I'm going to deadlift the weight up. Remember, you use neutral spine, flat back, 1 rep, stand tall, okay? Sit back. I'm going to sit down on the bench. Make sure, again, bar is even over your laps. And then from here, I'm going to very carefully shimmy my way down and scoop myself into place right around here. And then I can do my reps this way. All right? If you have a training partner, you can get them to deadlift it onto your lap so you don't have to do that extra work. So you can just get into place like this, and then they place it on your lap, and then you can do your reps. When you're done, come back up. You want to go slow and be careful here. Then from here, stand, and then carefully set it down. And that's how you would do that, okay? So earlier I mentioned different fixes you can do with your foot stance depending on where you feel it. I will say that a lot of times there are many people who, even when they have really, really good hip thrust form, either they feel it in their quads a lot and not very much in their glutes, or when they go too heavy and load, too close to their 1 rep max, they stop feeling it in their glutes and they feel it more in their quads. So in this case, a lot of people find that when they scale back the load, so they're not just maxing out all the time, they scale back the load, we have what's called the sweet spot, where you're still pushing yourself, but you're not going quite as heavy as you can, and that's the spot that allows you to feel your glutes working the most in that range. So what you want to do, especially if you're after glute activation, glute growth, and so on, is to stay in that sweet spot, and over time, slowly try to raise that sweet spot over a matter of several months, okay? You have the hip thrust. Very similar is what's called the glute bridge. The glute bridge is where you're performing this exercise off the floor, so your shoulders are not elevated. So this is the glute bridge. Very simple. I'm sure we've all done this before. It's much easier to get this exercise right. Notice how at the top, your thigh and your shin should be roughly at a 90-degree angle to each other like this. So this is the exercise to do. This one has approximately half the range of motion as hip thrusts, but for those of you who feel hip thrusts in your quads too much, you may find that glute bridges feel better for you. It's less relative quad activation, so you can do that. The other option is, and this one's hard to load, but you can do these for body weight for high reps, is to do a feet elevated glute bridge. So that takes virtually all quads out. And for this one, you can lie back with your feet up on a bench right here, and you can push through and get that full hip extension at the top. So my feet are elevated just like this. For these ones, I like to do sets of like 20 to 30 reps, just like that. You can even wrap a mini band or a glute loop around your knees, above or below the knees, depending on how many reps you're trying to do. So with the loops, below the knees makes it harder, above the knees makes it easier, or if you're doing higher reps, that's where you would want to put it. So these are some options for you to try if you find that hip thrusts are very, very quad dominant for you. But otherwise, I recommend starting out with body weight. If you're trying it for the first time, try 2 to 3 sets of 20 reps. And then from there, you can progress to a dumbbell variation on your lap, and then eventually moving on to the barbell version. So I hope that helps. Happy thrusting.